Now we're going to bring you a GB News exclusive on Meghan Markle. Yes, an insider working for Archewell, the not-for-profit organisation run by the Duchess of Sussex and Prince Harry, says quotes suggesting she's difficult are fabricated. OK, well, let's break this down with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, what's the story here?
Yeah, very interesting scoop by our GB News digital reporter, James Saunders here. But if you cast your mind back to 2018, when Meghan Markle started being a working member of the royal family, a couple of staffers alleged that she had bullying behaviour, and that prompted Buckingham Palace to launch an internal investigation. That investigation now concluded, but we know nothing else about it. If you remember, she allegedly was sending emails at 5 a.m. to staff demanding things. The Hollywood Reporter has now done a separate article speaking to unnamed sources, and they quote that everyone's terrified of Meghan still, she belittles people, and that she marches around like a dictator in high heels, fuming and barking orders. I've watched her reduce grown men to tears.
Goodness
That's what
me.
the Hollywood Reporter sources allege. But GB News has been speaking to some people very close to Meghan Markle. An unnamed source from Archewell, who wants to remain anonymous, says these quotes were fabricated by someone lacking knowledge of our company, because the Duke and Duchess work from Montecito, whereas we are based in Hollywood, which is clearly a different location. They likely think we're all in the same office and that this quote would fly, but the circumstances don't even allow for it. If she's marching around and barking orders, no Archewell employee could factually claim that. It's total nonsense. And they also say that regarding the emails, GB News, we have seen Meghan Markle's current email signature. You know, the thing at the end of your email which says who you work for, etc. And it says, and I quote, "My working day may not be your working day. Please do not feel obliged to reply to this email outside your normal working hours." So they seem to be refuting, sources close to Meghan Markle, the Duchess difficult term. But it's really interesting that we seem to be getting this kind of information. Usually it's a wall of silence.
Yeah, no, usually a wall of silence when it comes to Meghan and Harry. But so essentially, Archewell are saying nothing to see here. She's absolutely lovely as a boss. She doesn't spend much time here anyway. And all of these sources are just a load of rubbish.
Exactly. Two sides to every story is what I would add. I think clearly those close to Meghan are going to be liking Meghan and wanting to defend her very well. Hollywood reporter sources, whoever they are, clearly have an agenda against Harry and Meghan. But remember, Buckingham Palace did launch an internal investigation into Meghan Markle. At the time, it was described by Meghan's lawyers as a calculated smear campaign. But this could be a situation where some of the staff working for Buckingham Palace, a bit of a culture clash. Perhaps she was American and Buckingham Palace clearly very British, very stiff upper lip. And now, of course, she's gone back to her hometown of America, Los Angeles, and different staff working for her. So it seems to be a little bit of two sides to this story, and it's quite hard to see exactly where the truth lies.
Yeah, it is, but you do notice just how many staffers they go through, particularly senior ones. What was it, 18 staff?
Yes, we just had Josh Kettler, who was one of Harry's kind of chief advisors. He left in August just for the Columbia tour, and we've had a number of staff leave since Meghan and Harry left as working members of the royal family as well. But at the same time, there are a number of staff who clearly apparently feel happy to work for them still. So,
but she's she's not a dragon in Louboutins, according to these insiders.
Depends who you ask.
The difficult Duchess, or perhaps not. Perhaps she's the best boss ever. I'll let you decide at home. Thank you very much indeed, Cameron Walker. English identity is under threat. That's according to former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick, as he continues to fight for the Tory leadership. Now, he's putting this down to mass immigration and woke culture. He says those things are breaking down the country's culture in various different ways. Now, he's talking about how we've had mass immigration at the same time as woke culture, which he says is undermining our sense of identity, and how this may have been partly behind some of those riots we saw during the summer months. He's saying that a frank discussion is going to be needed to have about the state of the nation. It's quite interesting, the timing of this, isn't it? When we have day one of the Reform UK Party conference. Is that a coincidence, or is that timing that he chose specifically? Perhaps he's looking to try and court some of those voters who shifted from the Conservatives to Reform at the last election. Of course, he is, at the moment, a lot of people saying he is the front runner for the Tory leadership. So he could, if he wins the leadership of the Conservatives, become our next Prime Minister. It's clear that he wants to make immigration one of the key areas, one of the key things that he's pledging to the country. I guess there's a question mark over how much trust there is, considering the Conservatives oversaw such high levels of immigration for quite so long. But joining us now is the man himself, Tory leader hopeful, Robert Jenrick. Robert, thank you very much indeed for your time. Appreciate it. You are a busy man. Now, you've written this quite punchy...
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It was only a matter of time before the whispers became headlines. A former employee has spoken out, revealing shocking claims that Meghan Markle ruled her team with fear. Behind the polished smile and designer heels, a darker nickname has emerged, the Dictator in heels. According to sources close to the Sussex camp, former staff members describe a tense environment, one where perfection was demanded, mistakes weren't tolerated, and emotions ran high. Some claim they were terrified of Meghan's reactions, others say she was simply driven, misunderstood, and under immense pressure. But the phrase dictator in heels is one no palace aide will forget soon. The palace has so far remained tight-lipped, refusing to comment on private staff matters. However, insiders reveal that reports of bullying and intimidation had circulated long before the couple stepped down from royal duties. The timing of these new claims has reignited old wounds and old questions about the Sussexes' time behind palace doors. Supporters of Meghan Markle fiercely defend her, calling the allegations sexist, exaggerated, and rooted in bias against a strong, outspoken woman of colour. They say Meghan's determination was mistaken for dominance, and that her high standards reflected her Hollywood background, not cruelty. In her own words, Meghan once said, "Strong women are often called difficult." But for those who worked under her, the story is different. Late-night emails, public criticism, emotional exhaustion. These are the hallmarks of what some describe as a royal workplace meltdown. Was Meghan demanding excellence or enforcing dominance? This controversy isn't just about one woman's leadership style, it's about the power, pressure, and politics of the modern monarchy. As Harry and Meghan build their brand in California, their past continues to cast a long shadow over their future. And once again, the question echoes through royal circles: who is the real Meghan Markle? A leader? A visionary? A perfectionist? Or a dictator in heels? The truth, as always in the royal world, may depend on who's telling the story. A former employee has come forward with explosive claims against Meghan Markle, alleging a tense, fear-driven workplace behind palace walls. From emotional staff to the infamous nickname Dictator in heels, this report reopens one of the royal family's most controversial chapters. Microphone # join us as we explore both sides of the story, Meghan's fierce ambition versus the staff who say they lived in fear. Crown the truth behind the Sussex brand may be far more complicated than it seems.
You've written this quite punchy piece in the Daily Mail today, talking about how you see English identity being under threat. Should we start by saying, what do you mean exactly by English identity being under a threat? How do you believe it is?
Well, look, I'm a proud Brit, I'm a proud unionist, I want a strong Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, but I'm also proud to be English. And I think we should be rightly proud of our distinct national identity. And I think influential people like politicians, the media, the civil service in England should say so as well. If we were Scottish or Welsh, of course our politicians would rightly celebrate our distinctive history, our landscapes, our food, our customs. And that is absolutely the right way forward. But I think in England in particular, in recent decades, our identity has started to fray. And we've seen that in our children not being taught to celebrate English history in our schools, our public institutions denigrating and dismissing our history and our identity, and as a result of illegal migration and legal migration, putting immense pressure on our ability to successfully integrate people into our country, and in particular in England and English cities. The ties that bind us together as a nation and our English national identity have started to fray. And I don't think England is a country at ease with itself right now. And I think we've got to change that. And it begins with English politicians, just like those in Scotland and Wales, speaking about our national culture and identity and having pride in doing so.
If the two problems are mass immigration and also the sort of woke establishment denigrating what it means to be English, history, culture, etc., not celebrating it in the same way as the Scots or the Welsh might do. If those two things are the problem, then isn't that the legacy of your party?
Well, I think it actually goes back much further than that. You know, George Orwell spoke about this 80 years ago when he said that England was a country in which our politicians and public intellectuals were too quick to dismiss our national identity. And we've seen that throughout my lifetime. But I do think that this has been particularly prevalent in the last 2 decades, when we've lived through an era of unprecedented levels of mass migration. 100 times more people have come into our country, and in particular to England and English cities, in the last 25 years than the 25 years before that. And that has put huge pressure on our culture and our identity and our ability to successfully integrate. And we've got to change that. And I think it begins with us talking about it freely.
Absolutely. Robert, a lot of people watching will be frustrated, though, because they've voted time and time again for lower immigration. And what they've seen with the Conservatives is immigration actually accelerate beyond the Labour years before the Conservatives came into power in 2010. They've seen almost what they perceive as an open door policy when it comes to legal and also illegal immigration jumping up. How can they trust the Conservatives to get this right?
Well, I share their anger and frustration. I fought relentlessly in government to reduce the numbers coming in to our country and persuaded the then Prime Minister to do a big package of reforms which will reduce legal migration by 300,000 every year. And I argued that we needed to have a strengthened Rwanda policy. Ultimately, I wasn't successful in persuading her that, and that's why I resigned from the government at the turn of the year. So the public should know that I share their frustration. I want the Conservative Party to be different, to accept that it didn't get everything right when it was in government and now in opposition, to have crystal clear positions on these issues. I want Parliament to set a cap on legal migration in the tens of thousands or lower. And I want us to strengthen, not scrap, the Rwanda policy by leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. If I'm lucky enough to lead the Conservative Party in the future, that is the way that I will proceed. And I think that slowly we can begin to regain the trust and the confidence of the millions of people in our country who did lose faith in us as a result of the policies that we had in recent years.
Robert Jenrick, today, of course, is day one of the Reform Party's big conference, their big party conference. They're saying that they've got their eyes set on the 2029 election. They think they can win it. They've got that big ambition. The timing of this article, was it to coincide with the Reform Conference, trying to win back some of those Conservative voters that chose to tick that box at the last election?
No, this is something I've been thinking about for a very long time. But look, I do want the Conservative Party to once again be the natural home for all small c Conservatives in our country, people who love our national identity, whether that's British culture and identity or Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland or England. I want it to be the home of everyone who wants secure borders, a tough approach to crime, respect for family and personal responsibility, strong defences, entrepreneurship and small state. Those are my values. Those are shared by millions of people across our country, some of whom have left the Conservative Party and gone to Reform. My mission is to bring those people back home to the Conservative Party.
And how do you make sure that when you're talking about English identity, people don't see it as excluding people of different skin colours, different faiths, different backgrounds? Because that's the difficulty, isn't it? When people talk about English identity, they assume that must be based on ethnicity. How do you make sure that that brings everyone together so we can have this positive, cohesive society that you clearly want?
Well, England, like our whole United Kingdom, is an open and tolerant nation, and it has welcomed people for generations of all ethnicities and all faiths, and that is absolutely right. That is the united country that I want to build. But it's only if we talk about our national identity and celebrate it, its history and everything that makes it so important, that we can help to pass it on intact to future generations. And if we reduce the number of people coming into our country to a sustainable level, that's the best way we can achieve that. Because people don't arrive in our country imbued with our history and culture and identity the minute they come here. It takes time. And that means we have to have a much more careful approach to bringing people and integrating them into this country. And I believe we can do it, but we have to be talking about it, and we have to be ensuring that our children are educated in our history, our institutions are celebrating it and not denigrating it. That is the way we move forward.
OK, well, thank you very much indeed for your time. Robert Jenrick, a Tory leader, hopeful former minister. Thank you very much indeed for your time.